Welcome to BPH Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as Bunnyfish on Ravelry, Instagram, and YouTube. Today is Thursday, the 12th of April, 2018. This is episode 5. Grab some sticks and string and come sit with me. How have you guys been? It's been a couple weeks since I've seen you. I did just upload the spring break vlog yesterday, so hopefully you got a chance to watch that so you could see in real time what we were doing, kind of, although I'm really bad at vlogging. Some people are amazing at it, and I just forget to do it. But I talked about a whole bunch of stuff, and it's only about 20 minutes for a whole week, so, you know, I think that I talked about some good stuff in there. So check it out if you haven't. Spring break was good for us here. We spent half of it in Michigan and half of it in Ohio with the kids' dads. And that was fine, although I would have much preferred to just drop the kids and he take them so I could have a little break. It was fine though. It just meant that my crafting was a little weird since I didn't have, all of my stuff. But I did, since it's been 2 weeks, I did finish a lot of things since the last time I saw you. So let's just crack on with that. So first up is the Undercover by BPH. And I was really close to finishing last time I talked to you. I was like 4 rounds away from starting the second border. And it's a pretty decent sized blanket. Do you want me to do the standing test? So I'm about 5.5. And you can't even see. But it goes from the ground to my chin. So it's a pretty good throw size. And it's really, oh, sorry, I just kicked the table that you're sitting on. It's a really good size. It's really pretty. The stripy inner part is a Karen Big Cake in the cookie crumb or crumble colorway. And then the first border is in Karen 1 pound off-white. And the second border is also a Karen 1 pound, but a color I didn't know. I did talk about this blanket in a pretty decent amount of detail on the vlog, so I'm not going to talk about it too much, but I had been working the border in seed stitch, didn't like it, decided to do a knitted on border, and then I didn't know how to, what's going on here? I'll fix this in a minute. I didn't know how to deal with my corners. So I did a mitered square. So when I got to the corner, because I didn't really talk about this part, I talked about wanting to do it. When I got to the corner, I knit across where I had been working right here, and then cast on these stitches, and then did my mitered square back and forth. And as I was doing the mitered square, I continued on with this edging on the one side, and then got to the corner, and then did the same I-cord edging down the side to where I had cast on, and then picked up the stitches in that cast on edge and continued doing my knit on border. I think that it looks really nice and really intentional, and I didn't have to go back and mess with anything. So that's always good in my book. I used the size 7 and size 8 needles on this project. And then my next finish is the How Come That Blood socks by Adam Kaczynski. And these I finished right on the end of finishing this blanket. I only had 10 rounds in the toe to go on the last day of March, but I had a pretty big chunk of the border to go, and I wanted this blanket finished. That was my priority project. Does anyone else do this where you have like a priority want to finish project, and then when you just can't handle that anymore, then you pick up your other projects and work on that? So that was this. And I didn't end up, went totally monogamous on the 31st until I finished the blanket, and then with 20 minutes to spare, I did a couple rounds on the socks, but then went to sleep because I knew I wasn't going to finish them on the 31st. But I finished them and made these using Knit Picks Stroll Fingering Hand Paint in the Red Wing Blackbird colorway. And the pattern has this mock cable-y thing down the foot, and across the top of the foot it goes into ribbing, so it becomes really, really easy and mindless. I really liked this pattern because even though it had that kind of mock cable thing, it was really easy to maneuver and manipulate while doing other things, like being at the movies. And then my third finished object is something that I hadn't even talked about last time I saw you, and honestly, I had forgotten that I was going to make it. I didn't forget. So what had happened was, Jack Beck, who is Frog It About It on Instagram and Ravelry, put out a call for test knitters, and I wasn't following Jack at the time, but Haley, Hales Knits, tagged me in the post, and I was like, I could do a test knit. It's been a while since I've done one of those. So I went to the Ravelry group like it said to do and signed up to test knit, and then I didn't hear anything back, and I was like, well, maybe he has enough test knitters, not a big deal. And then right before April started, or right before I left, I don't exactly remember, he sent me an email with the pattern, and I was like, okay, not a problem. It's a pretty simple shawlette sort of neckerchief thing, very small. Should be easy to fit somewhere in my projects this month. It turns out that this is what I worked on the most on our Ohio drive-away. It's completely finished and blocked, but I didn't leave in the ends yet because I didn't have a needle with me. So you can see that it has eyelet details, like a mesh lace section, garter section, stockinette section. Very simple triangular shawl, has a mock cable spine, which is really, really nice, and it's really, really lovely. He recommended to use speckle yarn, so that's what I did. I had a skein of, where's my tag? Spun right round in the, here it is, in the 80/20 sock base in the Shock Star colorway. I've had this color forever. I picked it up at the ZK, I want to say. I'm pretty sure this wasn't one that was gifted to me. Pretty sure I picked it up at the ZK off of Jenna716, her yarn truck, because I had seen Carrie, who is K-Hob Fox, or was a long time ago. I'm so behind on everybody's everything, like basically a year behind on everybody's things, just so you know. So you have some, so maybe that's not her name anymore, but she did the Foxes and Socks podcast with her sister Beth, and she made something using this colorway, and I loved it, and I was obsessed, so I had to get it. Anyway, this shawl pattern is not boring, and it's pretty simple, so I knitted up while I was there mostly. I think I had a bind off to do, or maybe the edging and a bind off to do when I got back. I worked on it in the movie theater. I worked on it in the car. I worked on it, we went to the aquarium, and I took this as my walk around project. So overall, a very simple but lovely knit, and it's perfect for springtime. I don't actually have any shawls that are this size, so all of mine are a little bit bigger, and today we're supposed to get up to 70 degrees, so by the time I go into the parent pickup line, I'm going to be way too hot for my plaid shirt, so I'm probably still going to need something around my neck though, so I'll wear this with my shirt underneath. And the other really exciting thing about this test knit, which was lovely, is that Jack has offered to gift this pattern once it's released, which it's not released yet. The testing period, I believe, was all of April. I just happened to finish it really quickly because I was on spring break and it was my carry-around project. So he is projecting having the pattern finished sometime in May, maybe even May 1st, but technical issues are holding him back from promising that. So what I'm going to do is I am going to open a thread in the Ravelry group, and I would like for people to, if you're interested in winning a copy of the shawl. Did I say there were 3 up for grabs? That's really generous. So if you're interested in this shawl, I would like you to comment in the thread with what yarn you would possibly like to knit up in this. And normally I wouldn't say something like this about, oh, hey, if you win, knit up the pattern quickly, but Jack is a fairly new pattern designer. So if you think that you probably won't knit it up in this season, like from, I don't know, May to July, somewhere in there, if you don't think you're going to be able to start it or cast it on or make a project page or something, maybe not enter this one, just so that we can get Jack some support for his patterns by having people make the pattern and have it up on Ravelry. So can you guys do that? Because it really does help new and less known designers if people make project pages with their projects and have that up. But again, it's a really quick knit. It's fingering weight yarn, knit on size 5s. So it goes super, super fast. And I still have a decent portion of my yarn left, probably like 30 grams. I don't have a scale, so I can't weigh it, but I would say about 30 grams left. So if you have a really large partial skein, you could do that. I also think it would look really cool if you had 2 bigger mini skeins to do the stockinette sections in one, and then the mesh sections in another, and figure out where you want to allocate your yarn for the garter sections. I think that would be really cool. So yeah, did I even say what the name of the shawl is? Probably not, because I don't know how to pronounce it, and I should have asked, but I'm going to ballpark it. The Con Pieto shawl by Jack Beck. So I know that it's the middle of the month. However, it's the first podcast of the month, so I have a whole bunch of new projects to show you. Not a whole bunch, a medium amount of new projects to show you. First up, I have a design sock. You guys, I haven't designed anything in a really long time. And yes, I know, you don't need to remind me, Allison, I know that I still have a pair of, what is it, mitts? Yes, fingerless mitts that I have test knitted. I just need to do the file for. So it's on my list. I am really, I want to say by the end of this month, but really it's more likely going to be by the end of May that I'm going to get that done. So that's, sorry. I know. I really like those mitts too, but I don't have the, I don't have my own computer. I have to borrow my nephew's computer, mostly while he's at school and I'm not doing things, which is surprisingly not a lot of downtime for myself. I have to pencil in Thursday as podcast day to make it happen. Anyway, so I am designing a sock, and the magic is happening on the other side because I am using Leading Them on Fiber Arts in the I want to say Showstopper base. It's fingering weight, no cashmere, high twist sock, and the Nooch Fiber, let's see, what base is this? Spoiler, I have some new yarn to show you. Midtown sock in the unresolved colorway. And I am designing a sock that uses intarsia. I've never designed anything, honestly, with intarsia in it. So that's pretty exciting and a little scary. But I'm really liking it so far. I did have to rip out the sock 3 times until I got it to this point, but I think this is going to work. This is the first sock, and there is going to be a left and a right. And other specs on it, because I will need test knitters at some point in the future. I would like to have these both done by the end of this month, so I'm going to say in May, test knitters, but I'll update you as April goes on. So the specifications about this sock. It's knit on US size 1 for me, because that's my needle. 2.25 millimeter needles. I am choosing to knit it on 9-inch circulars because I personally find that the easiest for intarsia in the round socks. I want to say I've only knit one pair of socks ever that used intarsia in the round, which were the Stitch Surfers. It's a free knitting pattern, knitty pattern. If you have been a longtime podcast watcher, you probably remember Diane of Knittable, or she was Knittables and had the Knittables podcast. She knit so many pairs of those socks, and I'm hoping it's going to work out. Most of the magic in my brain is happening on the leg, so once I get through the leg, I should know whether or not this sock is going to be successful. And then I have to figure out how I'm going to change the pattern to be on the other leg, and hopefully that will work and I won't have to rip out that sock 4 times. So we'll see. I'm really out of practice with designing and synthesizing ideas, but I feel like a lot of designers have to do a certain amount of ripping anyway, right? That's part of the process. So next up, I have my spinning project, which I'm spinning Painted Tiger. And I was so bad, you guys. I didn't spin at all for the first week of April. But then Haley called me out on Instagram, and it's actually really great that she did because now I feel compelled to spin, which I love spinning. I don't want to make it sound like it's a chore at all because it's not. And this fiber is lovely. It's BFL silk, right? Yes, BFL silk. So it's spinning up super thin. And this is all I have left of the fiber because this was a whip from a long time ago. This was a whip from Kentucky. So yeah, but I didn't spin I spun very little in the past year and a half. So this is what I have left to spin of the single. I have this plying ball. So I'm plying it on a Turkish spindle and I am chain plying it. So I have this ball to ply and then another ball just a little bit bigger to ply. And then I will have this to ply. So totally, completely finishable this month. I didn't want to give myself a spinning project that I was going to have to stress over in order to finish. I knew I wanted to finish a whip, and I have several whip spins that are a lot more labor intensive than this one. So this should be able to be finished by the end of the month, and I'm hoping that it sparks my spinning mojo so that I get back into that because I do really, really like spinning and I really enjoy making yarn, although I don't knit with my hand spun. I've knit very few projects out of hand spun that I've made. Less than half of my hand spun has been knit by me. A lot of it is gifted. So I don't have a purpose for this hand spun when I'm finished except to finish the object. But if you are a longtime viewer, you will know that almost everything that I make doesn't come to me. I make very little for myself. This blanket's not for me. These socks are not for me. The shawl I'm keeping, but that's just because, honestly, nobody in my life wears these colors. They're not bad colors. It's just we all dress in this. Like my closest circle, we all wear very dark, neutral colors most of the time. Another thing that I started was the other string band hat for Becca. This one is... Sorry, I picked it up and started knitting because I had to pause for Molly to eat her food right next to where I'm recording. So this is being knit out of Drops Delight, which is a 75-25% superwash wool, but it's a single. And the colorway is 01. And then I'm using Premier Serenity Sock in black for the other color. And like last month's string band, I started with section 3, doing Judy's Magic Cast On to provisionally cast on stitches, and then knitting stitches together later. So we're going to the movies a couple times this month. We already have tickets for it. And I will be traveling down to Ohio again for a wedding. That's actually going to be in Kentucky, but northern Kentucky, southern Ohio. So this will probably be my go project then, because it's super mindless and boring, although it is kind of throwing me off watching myself knit in the screen. I'm like, what's going on? So yeah, I'll probably take this with me. I'm going to knit the ribbing portions and section 3 on US 1 2.25 millimeter needles, and then the garter body portion will be knit in US 3 3.25 millimeter needles. Sorry if the airplane sound is distracting for you. Helicopter, whatever that was, some sort of flying machine. I live pretty close to an Air Force base, so that's a pretty normal occurrence for us. But I don't even know if you could hear it, so it might not even matter. Anyway, so this hat, I don't know, I'm less than a third of the way into the body, but it's moving along and the colors are gradiating beautifully into the next, because I'm using not a gradient, but it has long color changes in this drops. So that'll be really lovely when it's finished. Hopefully by the time I go down to Ohio at the end of the month. I wouldn't mind finishing it while I'm there, but I want it to be almost completely finished because I would rather just give Becca her Christmas hats now. She and I have never been like super big on holiday gifts anyway. Not because we don't want to give each other things, but we're the type of people who are like, oh, I saw this, here, have it. So that's how we do it, and it just makes more sense because it's still going to be cool-ish, and she wears her hats year-round, so why not get in those extra, 7 months of wear instead of waiting until Christmas, right? That's just silly. So that is the string band. Where am I on my list? Okay, so Even Star. Let's show you that. You guys, I really think I'm probably not going to finish this shawl in time. And it's totally my fault. I did not work on it like I should have when we went down for spring break. I was doing pretty decent before spring break, getting 2 repeats finished a day. First, I was crazy and I was like, oh, I'm going to do 4 repeats a day. That way it can be finished halfway through the month. No. Because of the beads. If there were no beads, no problem. This would fly by. It's knitted on edging, which goes super fast, except there are 5 beads on every purl back row of the edging, which makes for a beautiful detail. It's gorgeous, but it's time consuming. So this is all that I have. That's not very much bound off. And this is my halfway point. So if I do 2 repeats a day, which would get me to 1 stitch marker every day, I will finish this on the 1st of May. It's not really an option, right? So I do have some hope though, because my children are going to their grandma's for this weekend, which means I will be child free. So part of it is not that this is difficult, but when I get frustrated with this, I get frustrated in general, or if the children are being really loud, I just can't work on this. So I'm hoping to kind of catch up on the Even Star over the weekend. I mean, I'm still going to work on it today and tomorrow, but I'm hoping that on Saturday and Sunday, I can knock out a pretty decent chunk of the border. I'm not trying to say get to the halfway point or anything, because that's just crazy, but I mean, it would be nice to get to the halfway point. I feel like if I just sat down and Netflixed and chilled for a weekend, I could have hope of finishing this in time for the wedding. So we'll see. But also, I haven't received my invitation in the mail yet for the wedding. I know I'm invited. I double checked with my friend, but I haven't received my invitation yet. So now I'm kind of like, even though I know that I'm invited, I'm kind of in that headspace of, oh, I'm not invited, so why do I have to worry about it? That's dangerous, right? Anyway, the Even Star is a pattern by Susan Pandorf, and I used silky alpaca lace, classic elite yarn in a numbered colorway for the interior, and then a black silk alpaca, I'm pretty sure, blend for the border, but the tag is still in the center of the ball, and I want to leave it there so that I don't end up with yarn barf when I get closer to the center of the ball, because it's been caked up since Mara was an infant. So like 6 years, I don't want to mess with that. So I'll let you know what it is when I finish this shawl. Wish me much luck, and I am knitting away on it. It's just those beads are killing me. And then I have one final project, and all of my other projects are in knitting bags. You've seen them being in their knitting bags, except one. So this one is actually living in my purse, because a couple days ago I got a new purse at Meijer. It's a regional grocery store supermarket thing. It's kind of like, it is and it is not, like Walmart, how Walmart has all of the sections. Meijer also has all of the sections, or close to all of the sections, but it is I believe it started in Michigan. If not in Michigan, somewhere in the tri-state area it started. So it's more local. Anyway, I picked this up at a Meijer, and if you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen it on my Insta stories. It has something like 10 pockets. And one of the pockets I am using as a designated project pocket so that I always have knitting with me. Because sometimes I think that I'm really just going to run up somewhere and then come right home and I don't need a project. Or I think, oh, I'm just going to go drop off the kids at school and come home, so I don't need a project. And then I'm sitting in the drop-off line for 5 minutes. I'm like, I could have been knitting these 5 minutes, but instead I have to listen to these children and they're driving me crazy because I just can't handle that much talking at 7:30 in the morning. So now I have a dedicated project pocket in my purse. And I actually have two small things in here right now, but I'll talk about this one in a few minutes. So right now I have a pair of socks in my purse, and someday these will grow up to be the Maudie socks by General Hog Buffer. But right now they are, got some yarn barf from the center of the balls going on. They are the cast on and half of a round around. So they're not very exciting, but I'm super excited to have them in my bag all the time, which also means they're not getting worked on. Like, they're not in the rotation like other things, but that's fine. I should be able to finish them by the end of the month as other things get finished, but I want to make sure that I have something in my bag to work on. So those are all of my works in progress right now. I do still have one thing that is on my April to finish list, which is a sweater made out of this Knit Picks yarn that I frogged out of a different sweater I had made for myself. I'm going to make myself a Sarah cardigan, hopefully with long sleeves, but I don't know how much yarn I have pulled out of that sweater, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. And it is a goal to have it finished by the end of the month, but I also had this extra project that I hadn't planned on doing, so we'll see. Hopefully I'll at least get it started soon. Maybe today. Today could be a good day to start a cardigan, because it's going to be 70 degrees, right? Anyway, let's talk about modular projects. So the other project that I had in my purse is a barn raising square that I accidentally pulled some stitches off the needles. Not a big deal. Let's just slip those back on. Okay, so This is a barn raising square. It's pretty close to finished. I am knitting this one out of Undead Yarns in the, I don't remember the base name, 75-25 or 80-20, a sock yarn for sure, because I knit a pair of socks out of this. So this is Undead Yarn, beautiful. The colorway is Jaws, and I have a big chunk of yarn left over. Since I started the podcast, I have made a few other barn raising squares. This one is a Knit Picks sock yarn. I don't remember which of the 3 or 4 or 12 sock lines it is, but it's kind of a kettle dyed green. I want to say it's Hawthorn. Does that sound right? I feel like this is Hawthorn, but I don't know the colorway. This is a Drops Fable colorway that I made socks out of. And that green yarn I made socks and a hat out of. And I think it's that same color. Yes, it's that same color. I will very soon be making baby booties because my son's teacher from last year, she is pregnant. So, and all she wanted, so let's rewind. Last full podcast, I told you about a teacher who was hit outside of the school when she was doing crossing guard duties. She passed away, which is really sad and was really, really hard for a little while there, but it's been a couple of weeks, so it's part of the new normal. So she passed away from her injuries, and they had a memorial for her on Good Friday. So we went to the memorial, and the school that my kids go to is a very like family inclusive place and that sort of thing. So my children love their teachers, and we're a pretty huggy family. So at one point I walk over, I'm at this memorial. I had just followed Mara around. She was hugging everybody, and at least 3 people said, "Oh, Mara, this is just what I need today," because Mara, you know, she's only 7, so she only kind of understands the concept of death. So for her, she wasn't super sad, which was fine because the family actually requested that people not wear black and it be more of a celebration than a sad thing. So I didn't have to keep being like, Mara, you can't laugh, you can't do this, you have to be serious. So she was just her normal bundle of joy self, giving people hugs, and people were like, this is what I need today, because she's just so happy. Everybody in the school loves Mara. I love Mara most of the time. Although, as an extreme introvert who needs a lot of time and quiet to themselves, it can be a little trying to have a little bundle of energy in your face. So anyway, I walk over and my son is sitting on his teacher's lap from last year, and he's not a small child. He is 9, and he is probably like this tall on me, so he's a big kid. And she is a small teacher. That sweater that I made for my niece, she's the teacher who tried it on and it fit her. So anyway, he's sitting on her lap and they're talking, and she turns to me and she says, "Your son is pimping out your knitting." And I was like, "Oh?" And she says, "Yeah, I'm pregnant. I just, had my whatever week update, and I told him I had a baby in my tummy, and he said that you would knit me a blanket and hats and stuff." And I said, "Oh, do you want some? Because I will totally do that for you, because I love her. I think she's amazing." And she was like, "No, what I really, really want is baby booties. Would you make me some baby booties?" Of course. So you're going to see some baby booties coming up, and she specifically wants green. I'm going to make some fingering weight ones and maybe some worsted weight ones just out of scraps and leftovers, but how cute is that? And then yesterday I was at the school because one of our 5 small humans got an award, and I was walking down the hall after walking her to class, and the teacher who I had made, the speech therapist who I had made the blanket for last month, is that right? I think so. The baby blanket, I'm pretty sure that was last month. my son gave it to her, and I saw her yesterday, and she came up and she gave me a hug, and she was like, oh my gosh, I love it so much. I love the hat. I love the blanket. We're so excited. And then she said, I don't have any grandparents anymore, so like my grandma would have made this, but she didn't. So I really just love the handmade thing. And that is what I love about making handmade gifts, right? When people just really, really appreciate it, and it made my heart so happy. So this is also a Knit Picks yarn, also Hawthorne. I made a dog sweater out of this, holding the yarn double. And then, or triple. Did I hold a double or triple? I held a double. I held the green yarn for the hat triple. And then this is a Croy pink stripes, purple stripes, something like that I made a pair of socks out of earlier this year. Okay, you remember how I said that there was a spoiler about some new things? Well, it is no surprise to anybody who has watched for a decent amount of time to know that I love Nooch fiber. And they posted, it's Nick and Mariana and their cat Nooch. Or his real name is Neutron, but they call him Nooch, and that's what the fiber's named after, which is why the tags have the little cat faces on them. Let's see if the light's gonna let me show you that cat face. Oh yeah, look at that face. So that's Nooch. I love their yarn so much, unapologetically, and they had a 24-hour flash sale. And in that 24 hours, yarn was 24% off. How could I not? Especially because I just knit that sweater, and my Nooch supply is running kind of low. I only had 2 skeins left, and one of them is a skein that I've had for ever. It's probably the first or second skeins that I got from them. I don't know, something like that. Because it's too precious and I'm like afraid to ruin it. So that doesn't even really count as stash. That kind of just counts as set decorating. Anyway, I ordered myself 2 skeins of yarn. One isn't here yet, so I'll show it to you next week. But this one came in, and it is gorgeous. It is called The Deeds Were Done and Done Again. It's Midtown Sock, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. I think it's so pretty, and it's a color that I've been eyeing for a very long time, at least 6 months, but probably longer than that. But, you know, I bought myself Unresolved instead of buying this one. So then they had the sale, and I was like, well, I have to get it. And then I got one that's called Hummingbird, which is gorgeous, and I think it shipped yesterday, something like that. So I'm trying to be very good and not stalk it too hard. And then I got some Nooch yarn for Christmas, but the person who bought it for me had it delivered to them in Kentucky, and then I didn't see them. So I just got it on spring break, and I don't even know which one to start with. They're all so pretty. Okay, I'll start with this one. This is Midtown Sock in the diaphanous wing colorway. So it's 75-25 again. And it is kind of like a mint blue-green colorway with speckles of brown and teal. And it's just so gorgeous. I don't know what it's going to be other than amazing. I don't know. It's so pretty. I love this colorway so much. And it is also one that I've been stalking for a while. And then this is Brazil on the Morningside sock, which is a 100% superwash sock. And my friend bought it specifically to get socks made. So I'll be making socks and using a contrast heel toe, maybe cup too. But look at how pretty that is. And this is a long time ago, back when I used to podcast all the time. I said that I would totally take bribery in the form of yarn to knit things for people, as long as they provided the yarn and yarn for myself to play with on my own. So my friend took me up on it, and these will be socks, and oh, they're so But this color is so pretty. I love it so much because I love green. And then this is not, it's not out of my wheelhouse, but it's not something that I would immediately pick up for myself. It's very pretty though. Realistically, it's going to become something for my sister. It is called Empire, and it is purple and like raspberry. It's really, really pretty. I just don't wear colors like this. It could be for me though. Who knows? This could marinate in my stash long enough to be a yarn for me instead of for somebody else. It's really hard to tell. This is also the Morningside sock, so 100% superwash. And it's gorgeous. I love Nooch fiber yarns so much. They stand up to a lot of abuse, a lot of frocking, a lot of wear, and the colors are just gorgeous. So if you haven't checked out Nooch fiber, you should probably do that. There's not a sale going on right now that I know of, thankfully, because bank account. But if you follow me on Instagram, I don't always repost things, but especially good sales, I try to repost them on Instagram stories, just so people know. That is all I have for you this week. Oh, no, wait. Lies. Unintentional. I don't have a book to show you right now, but like I said, I'm really behind on things. And so the podcasts that I'm watching are a couple months old. And I just watched BPH Crafts. I don't remember what episode number, but at the end of it, she was talking about Audible and how she likes nonfiction books. And I have a couple recommendations, Amanda, if you're watching, because I know you watch sometimes. So if you're watching, I really like to listen to nonfiction when I'm driving, when I'm doing really long drives. Fiction's fine, but I would like to feel like I'm not wasting my time, so I like to learn things. And two things that I have listened to very recently, I don't remember the authors, but if you want them, send me a PM and maybe I will send them to you, or I'll put them in the show notes. I'll try to remember to put them in show notes. The first one is Think Like a Freak, which is written by the author of Freakonomics, which I haven't read. I just liked the title, so I pulled it off the library's audiobook shelf. But it's really, it's about thinking outside of the box, and it has a whole bunch of anecdotes about thinking outside the box and interviews with people, and probably a little bit of here's how you can stretch your brain to think outside of the box a little. And then I am listening to a book currently called Wired for Creativity, which is about how artists and things like that, their brains scientifically are different than people who have less creativity. And it also has examples of how you can push your creativity to the limits within your genetic coding or whatever. It's really interesting. So Amanda, I recommend both of those. And that's really all I have for you now. I haven't worked on, I've been so bad the past 3 weeks. I have not worked on my weekly hour obligation on UFOs. Honestly, I'm probably not going to do that until the Even Star is finished. That's really bad. I'm going to get really far behind, but it's fine. I'll make it work. I hope you made something fantastic with your sticks and string, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.